Hi everyone, just a quick video on the modern braking system. So I've got this training rig in front of me and it's a typical hydraulic braking system. So I'm just going to go through the major parts and what they do. So first of all, I'll start on this end where you would be. So this is the brake pedal. So when you press the brake pedal, it will turn the brake light on. So there's a switch here and there's a little contact in there. So when I push the pedal, that little button pops out. When the button pops out, that creates an electronic circuit and that will turn your brake light on. As you press the pedal as well, it pulls this rod into the back of the brake servo. So there's the rod moving in there onto the brake servo. So we've got the brake servo here. This acts as a booster. It amplifies the amount of braking effort that you're producing at the pedal to assist you in slowing down what might be a 1 ton, 2 ton vehicle. It can amplify anything from 5 to 10 times on a normal light vehicle, and it uses engine pressure or engine vacuum pressure to do that. I have done a really detailed video on the brake servo. So if you're interested in the inner workings of that, I'll leave a link below. So we've got the brake servo, which is boosting the braking effort. It's still air at this point, and then it gets forced, it pushes the rod into here. This is where it becomes fluid. So we've got the brake fluid reservoir with your maximum and minimum level stamped on the case. And then we've got the brake master cylinder underneath. There's two sets of pistons here. So there's a piston here and a piston there. And as the rod moves, it creates pressure in both the little chambers around here. We've got 4 lines, copper brake lines, and they go off to the 4 corners of the car. The reason it's done in pairs is if there's a split here on a brake line, you will lose 2 brakes because it will leak out. You won't lose all 4 because there's a separate chamber there. So we're going to lose 2 brakes at once, which is a safety precaution, a safety mechanism. We've also got a cap here with a sensor on it. So there's something called a reed switch in there, which is basically a electronic sensor on a float. And if it drops off the end of the scale, it puts a warning light on the dashboard, and it will look something like that, telling you that your brake fluid's low. So copper is used for your brake lines because it's got high resistance to corrosion. You'll get at least 10 years out of copper brake lines, maybe 20, 30 or more, depending on the climate. So we've got our copper brake lines, goes to all 4 corners of the car, and I'll start with the front. So we've got this disc and pad set up. So we've obviously got the disc that spins with the rotation of the car, and then either side of the disc we've got a pair of pads. When brake fluid comes down here, it comes to the flexi pipe. The front wheels obviously steer, so they move left and right. So we need some movement in the system, because copper brake lines would just snap, and the fluid gets pushed into the back of the caliper here. In the back of the caliper, we've got a piston, which looks a bit something like this one. And this piston gets forced out with fluid pressure behind it, and it pushes the pads into the disc, and that slows the car down. When you come off the brake pedal, the fluid gets sucked back into the reservoir by a vacuum, and the seal itself where the piston is deformed and it gets pushed out, and the seal drags the piston back in. So the seal drags the piston back away from the back into the housing, sorry, and then the pads release off the disc as well. So that's the front end. The back end, we've got a drum set up. So this is slowly going by the wayside for discs and pads. Got a drum set up here. Obviously the drum itself spins with the rotation of the vehicle. It has a brake line going into the back of it, and the brake line goes into the back of the drum onto one of these, which is called a wheel cylinder. Similar system to the front. There's 2 pistons, excuse me, one either side. Fluid comes into the back in the middle and pushes the piston out left and right. Those pistons get forces against these, which are brake shoes, and the shoes live in the drum there. As they get pushed out, they get pushed to the outer wall of the drum, and then they obviously start slowing the car down as well. When you come off the brake pedal, the drum has return springs, so they will snap back and pull the shoes back off the drum to allow rolling motion again. As they wear down, the shoes will get thinner, so this braking material here on the outer of the shoe will get thinner and thinner, and within that mechanism as well, we've got what we call a adjuster. So this thread goes up and down, so as the pads get thinner and thinner, it winds itself further and further out, so your braking effort happens at exactly the same time, even though the material's thinner. So you're not waiting for the brakes to hit the drum. This is adjusting it for you automatically. And the last bit of the braking system I'm going to go through is the handbrake. Again, you've got a little switch down here, so when I pull the handbrake, that releases and turns the handbrake light on for your dashboard. We've got a centre cable for most cars that comes down here, and it goes to what we call an equaliser. The back 2 cables can stretch at different rates over the years. cables generally stretch at different rates, so the equaliser acts as a way of balancing out the effort applied to both sides. And the cables go down, follow this one around, into the back of the drum, and then one of these shoes will have the handbrake attached to it. When you pull the handbrake, it will force the shoe out onto the drum to hold your brakes when you apply the handbrake. That's just a brief overview of the braking system. I hope it makes sense, and I'll see you on the next one.